Welcome to Inspiring Women with ADHD. I'm Renee Allen, the host of this podcast, and I'm excited you're here. I hope that you know that you were included in that title, Inspiring Women with ADHD. It inspires me every time I talk to a woman or connect with a woman in some way who has ADHD because we're all in this together. So, welcome. Today, I want to talk to you about sensitivity to your surroundings. And I am not the scientist. I mentioned in the last episode that I majored in English. I am more of a word person, I am more of a people person, to tell the truth. But I am very sensitive to my surroundings. And I started recognizing this maybe 10 years ago. But now that I know I have ADHD, I see that that's part of it. The reason I say I'm not a scientist is because I haven't looked into this to know, is this more the hyperactive component? That's what I think it is. Or is it more the inattentive? It could be both actually, because it does get in the way of me being able to pay attention because there's too much going on in my own head. That I want to talk about being sensitive to our surroundings. And so whether you have combined type of ADHD, inattentive type, hyperactive, or any other flavor, maybe you can relate to this. So I have found that wherever I'm seated, especially at a play, movie theater, that's probably where I discovered it most because that was more common. But I don't like having anything in my vision. So somebody sits in front of me and I can see part of their head and it's blocking what I'm trying to look at. It's really hard for me to either pay attention, especially, so like if that's real people talking, it's really hard for me to pay attention. It's also hard if to be able to relax. And I feel like I'm amongst friends. So what can seem like a, gosh, why are you so impatient? Why can't you just get over this? To someone who doesn't experience this, I'm amongst friends and maybe you can relate to this. So it, it just really does impact my ability to enjoy. And I was first recognizing this when I probably recognized it before, but as actually a thing when I was going to buy tickets for me and my daughters to go see a play together. My daughter, when my oldest daughter was living in Las Vegas, she wanted to see Anastasia. It was on off Broadway, I guess is what you call it. It was a Broadway show and it was coming to Las Vegas. And I said, I'll buy tickets for us if my other two daughters come and we'll go. So I'm looking at tickets, don't have enough money to get, really close down or something, but there were some up on the balcony. And I was thinking I could get these and this would cost this amount of money. But if I get these, I know I'll be happier because they were closer to the aisle. I knew I'd be able to see better and it would just be a better experience all around. So I told my daughter, I said, I think I'm going to get these, even they're a little more expensive. And what I told her at the time, neither of us knew we had ADHD at the time. I told her, I said, you know how some people have OCD? I have OCD. That's what I made up, OCD. I go crazy if I'm not in the right seat. And I've even noticed that, like, somewhere where there's chairs that can move, like, they're not bolted to the ground. So movie theater, they're bolted to the ground. But I'll go into a room and maybe the chairs are all facing a speaker and I'm off to the side. I have to turn my chair toward the person because I don't like to face forward and then turn my head. It's just hard for me. So I just keep noticing these things that get in the way of my ability to relax enough to be able to enjoy it, but also even to be able to pay attention. And not being able to see the speaker is a big one. I was in a women's group setting last week and I went in and sat down. My daughter-in-law was in there, and I went and sat down next to her. And immediately I could sense, I don't like this. I don't like this. And I liked her. And the lady right next to me, I didn't know, but I felt locked in and I was on the second row and I felt too close. I don't like to be on the front row because then you can't do things on your lap without feeling like you're exposed. It's nice to have a chair in front of you. But I was sitting there and I thought, can you deal with this? Can you be in here for the next 45 minutes? And I sat there and I got more and more anxious inside. And I thought, I really don't think I can. And so I looked around and there was a chair right behind my daughter-in-law and it was a little more open. It was on the end of the aisle. And I thought, I'm gonna sit there. So I told her I'm gonna move. And then even when I did, I kind of turned the chair a little bit like I like to do. And then I was able to relax. But I wonder if you have any of that. Are you sensitive to your seat? Are you sensitive to how low a ceiling is? I didn't realize that was a thing for me until I taught yoga at a place last year, and the group fit room in this women's center is is low. It's not high like a lot of group fit rooms. And they have a stage at this gym where they want you to be up on the stage. And I decided right away when I started teaching for them, I'm not going to teach on that stage because it's just an accident waiting to happen. I'm gonna step off of it without thinking and break my foot again. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to be on the stage. I'll either be in front of it or teach from the other side of the room. But I realized over time that that ceiling, it was like it was pushing down on us. I just thought, I don't like this. And I said something to my daughter. She came to the class once and I ended up making a request every 3 months, I think it is. They let you make a request to like give up a class or teach a different class or request something else. And I said, I either need to give up that class or move it to a different location. And she said, oh, you can move it to a different location. I thought, whew. And I said to my daughter, could you tell how hard it was to be in that room, how hard it was to do yoga in there with the ceiling lower? And she said, Mom, I think, she didn't say it like that. She didn't say mom. She said, Mom, I think you're more sensitive to surroundings than most people. And I thought, oh, oh. And I read that people with ADHD can be more sensitive to light or sounds. And for me, at least, it's not the light and the sounds, unless I'm laying down and there's lights in my eyes, but teaching yoga or something. But anyway, so I just wanted you to think about that a little bit. Do you have any surroundings that drive you crazy? And part of me that thinks it's the hyperactive component is just because it makes me want to bolt and get out of there. And that's how I feel when my body needs to move. But I don't know. I really don't know. So who knows? If you know, let me know. I do know it gets in the way of me being able to pay attention though and focus. But another thing is lines, and as in standing in a line. And when my children were younger, there were always these moms that would go to drive-throughs and stop and get their kids food at a drive-through on the way home. And my kids would say, can we stop there? And I'm just like, I can't get in that line. And in my mind, I think we could be home eating by the time we get in line, wait for the food. I'm always measuring out that time, but part of it is I do not like to be in line like that. And one of my daughters loves drive-throughs. They're older now, and she said that's kind of ironic because the whole point of the drive-through is to get your food quicker. Or the whole point of fast food is get your food quicker. But to me, I think I feel locked in because if I change my mind, have you ever done that? Like you're in line at the pharmacy to get a prescription, and then all of a sudden, the two people in front of you, like it's taking forever. And it's probably also the hyperactive component. And then I think, okay, I'll just do this tomorrow, or I'll just park the car and go inside. And but then there's cars behind you and you're stuck. You're stuck. So maybe I have a fear of being stuck. I know I can't stand stop and go traffic. I would rather get off the road and have it take me an extra half hour or something to drive on an open road. I don't like to drive where a car's right in front of me where I can't see past it. That's kind of like the movie theater thing. If it's a bigger car than me, I can't see around it. So I'm that person that leaves a lot of space and then everyone comes and gets in front of me because they think, oh, there's room in front of her, which I'm aware of, but I still want to be back more. So a classic thing, and I don't know if you feel the need to get up and dance. I don't know if this is classic or not, but to me it is. But like if you're in your car and there's good music on, are you able to sit still or do you need to dance? I need to dance. I need to dance, especially if it's a stoplight, then you have room. If you're listening to good music, do you want to get up and move? I do. I mean, it's not like I always have to dance, but when the Eras Tour movie went to the theaters, my daughters and I went and saw Taylor Swift last year when she toured in the US. And then when the movie came out at theaters, we thought, okay, let's all go, let's all go. And I was reading that people were getting up in the theaters and dancing. And I bought tickets for the back row because that way, if anybody behind us didn't want to dance, I wouldn't feel bad dancing because I wouldn't be in front of anyone. I was planning it out, planning it out. And guess what? Nobody danced. Nobody danced. And so I couldn't even stand up because they were those recliner seats. So the seats are so big that if I stood up, I'm kind of blocking the people that are next to me because I'm forward a little bit. And I didn't get aisle seats, so partway through, it just felt stupid to sit there because I had to move. I had to move, and it feels dumb to me to after a while. I mean, you can do it in the car because you have to, but it felt really, I guess, for better word, dumb to just be dancing while in your chair when you could stand up. So I went to the back corner wall, danced quite a few times. I was the only person in the theater dancing. Not that anybody cared, but it feels stupid. It takes kind of some of the joy out of it to have that happen. But yeah, do you need to move? Do you need to move when you hear the music going? I think that's a hyperactive. It's an escape, of energy, and I think it's needed for some of us. I I had a really good example or a good instance to explore because now that I know I have ADHD, I look at things and think, oh, that's why this or that. And like going into a restaurant, sometimes I'll sit down and I'll just think this just doesn't feel good. Like I'm very aware that I'm not comfortable and I want to move. And my kids are always horrified, like, oh, just stay here. But if it's empty enough, I'll ask to move. They haven't brought us anything. But anyway, yeah, kids get embarrassed by people like me. And I try not to be a problem for the people who work there. But I, last fall, my mom turned 80, and my brothers and I met my mom and dad to have a little celebration, weekend celebration. We all live in different places, so it was nice to get together, different states in the country, in the US. And one of my brothers, not my older brother, my younger brother, planned a an activity, like a family history activity, which was really wonderful in a lot of ways, where he would record, video record. I swear it takes me a while to get these words out sometimes. Sorry about that. It's I've heard that it's your brain processing the information. So that's why if there's these little pauses, I'm just figuring out what I'm going to say. But my sister-in-law made all these little questions on little pieces of paper, folded them up, and put them in a bowl. My brother had not a video recorder, had his phone to record my parents, and one by one, my four brothers and I took turns asking questions of my parents, and then they were recorded. Their answers were recorded, and someday we will have those. And so the rule was, if it's a rule, the way that it worked was you could pick a question and you could read that question, or you could decide to ask your own question. And so it was cool. And we alternated. Like I'd ask a question of my mom, and then my brother would ask my dad, and it went back and forth. So I knew we were going to do this. I've realized I think this is also hyperactive component. I have a hard time sitting down and playing games. Like if there's something like we're all going to sit and play a game. I played games as children. I played Monopoly. I played all those things that kids play when they're little, at least back then. But as an adult, I tied this to ADHD. I don't want to play games. I have relatives who play cards every time we get together. I don't want to do that because I feel locked in. I feel like I can't get away. And if I want to get up, I'd rather just sit and talk to people or walk around or whatever. So I opt not to play, but I'll sit and talk to you and then I can get up if I want, that kind of thing. So with this activity that was going to happen, I walked in, I had gone to buy food or something. I come in and they're all sitting around a table at this house rental, this house that we were renting. And I said, "Oh, can't we do it in that room where we're all sitting, like a living room on couches and stuff?" And they said, "No, we thought we'd just do here at the table." And I thought, okay, that's the first thing is I'm not going to be that comfortable sitting in a chair for I don't know how long. And then the only chair that they had was at the end of the table, away from my mom and dad, away from the living room, away from the kitchen. And I just thought, oh man, I could just sense that's not going to be easy. But I thought, okay, so I'll go sit over there. And I told my mom the next day, I said, I didn't think about it that much while it was going on, but in evaluating how it worked out, I didn't sit still. It was like a little kid. I went from seated with my feet on the floor to cross-legged to kneeling on the chair, sitting in a kneeling position. And I'd think, "Oh, I need to get water," or, "Oh, I need to walk around. It's not my question time." I didn't not want to be a part of it. I didn't not want to listen, but I had a hard time sitting there. I also had a hard time not talking. I could only talk if it was my turn, but I worked on that. So that probably also built up energy. But I would just think, don't chime in, don't chime in, don't chime in. While my mom was saying her part, or my dad was saying his part. It's not your turn, it's not your turn. And so that took a lot of energy. And quite a few times while my mom and dad were recording, because I couldn't walk behind him, my only exit was to walk behind him to go in the kitchen. Every once in a while, somebody else would go in the kitchen and fill up their drink or something. So I had to crawl on the floor behind their chairs, and then I could stand up in the kitchen and get something. I probably did that 3 or 4 times. But I realized, yeah, it's that antsiness. It's that feeling locked in way that I do with traffic, with lines. Someone recently told me, and I haven't found any validation for this, but when I was describing to them how I feel locked in like that, like in a line at Disneyland or Disney World or somewhere like that, that I had claustrophobia. And I thought, no, I don't. I'm fine with elevators. I'm fine, in a really small space. And I looked it up online to see if there was anything with that. And I didn't see anything related like that. But at the same time, I thought in some ways it makes sense. Maybe it's not claustrophobia, but it's a similar thing. I feel trapped. I feel trapped, and it creates something in my body. So I don't know if you have any of those things. If you have the hyperactive component, I was actually told by my psychiatrist that having the hyperactive component in women isn't as common as the inattentive type. But I don't know if that's true or not. It's just all things that I like to explore, figure out about myself. And I'm curious, maybe there are far more women who have the hyperactive component. Maybe it shows up in different ways. Like maybe they're not moving and dancing in their cars like I am. Maybe their feet aren't fidgeting. Do you do those things? I sit and I see some people doing it sometimes when you're sitting down and one foot, like maybe your legs are crossed and your foot just moves rapidly like back and forth. It's that kind of thing. Or actually, I do that in the mornings too when I wake up. If I'm super tired, which isn't very often, I this doesn't happen, but most of the time I wake up, and even at the time of year when it's still dark, and I think, is it actually time to get up or is it the middle of the night? If I've had enough sleep, my foot will move like that in bed. Like it's telling me, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Let's go. Let's get up. So, where does that energy come from? I don't know, but that's how our brains were formed. That's how our bodies work. That's how they don't work sometimes. I think that'll be it for now. It's funny because as I'm making this, I don't know that yet until I finish. But you know when you look at the episode how long it is. So I'm not telling you anything you don't know. But this is it for today. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're managing yourself well. You're not going crazy inside, that if you do, you have a way to get up and get out of there or create energy. I was showing a bunch of kids because I can spot children with ADHD now. It's pretty fun. I think, oh yeah, you, where I really didn't know much about it when my kids were little. But if you sit and interlace your fingers and then move your thumbs around, like rotate around, round, 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 round. It's a way to sit still and move. And hardly anybody knows I'm doing it right now. Can you tell? Anyway, thank you so much for being here. Feel free to reach out if you want on my website. There's a contact area. You can send me a note. It's renee-allen.com or renee-allen.com, whatever you call that line in the middle that's allowed for a website name. But thank you so much for being here. I hope you come again. Bye.
Open windows, broken shadows. Frozen dreams are left for tomorrow. Without a cause, no time for a pause. Rewind, I've run out of time to sing melodies and harmonies. I'm cut short, the silence of sound has yet been found, but not by me.